Hello, welcome to my channel WWE Pulse.
In professional wrestling, there is always so much hype leading up to those big four major events: WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series. The build-up starts months in advance with wrestlers cutting promos, bragging about how they're going to win the big one. Then there are weeks where it becomes more personal, almost like a street fight as the tension builds and then the verbal abuse increases. Finally, the last week before the event, we get what is known as the go-home show. This is usually the final episode of Raw or SmackDown before the big event. Its purpose is to provide one last bit of a hype for the matches that'll take place at the pay. Usually this comes in the form of one last stare-down between the competitors, or maybe even some sort of physical altercation that takes place. And almost every single time, this results in a huge brawl and leaves everyone standing around wondering who's gone. Come out on top at the event. I'm your host, and in today's episode of Did You Know, I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about the go-home show. But first, if you happen to be new here, why not consider subscribing? That way you don't miss any of our future episodes. Also, don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload. And once you've done that, let's jump into it. As I mentioned earlier, the go-home show is the last episode of WWE's flagship shows: Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, before one of the four major For example, this coming Monday night, February 13th, will be Tigo Home Show for the Elimination Chamber match taking place in Canada this Saturday. To keep it simple, the purpose of the go-home show is to promote the upcoming event. Usually, the main event of the go-home show is one last face-off between the competitors of the main event match that will take place at the peak. Sometimes there's even an added stipulation that if one wrestler wins the match, they become the #1 contender for the championship. In other words, the go-home show is basically just an extension of the hype that's been building for months. But it is also more than that, because the go-home show also serves as a reminder to those watching that if they do UNT purchase the pay-per-view, they'll miss out on all of the action. And while in recent years, WWE has made their second half of their flagship shows available to those subscribed to the WWE Network the day after the event, back in the early days, fans would have to wait until the following Monday or Friday to see the replay. If you want to see all of the matches from the go-home show, stick around until the end of the video. I'm going to provide a list of every go-home show that has taken place since the turn of the century. Now, while the role of the go-home show is simply to hype up the upcoming pay, historically speaking, they're usually packed full of action. In fact, most go-home shows have a lot riding on them, and that is mainly because they almost always culminate in a huge brawl. There's really no specific reason for this other than to further promote the event. If you think about it, this is probably one of the few times during the year where every member of the roster actually has a purpose. Sure, there may be some superstars that aren't featured on the pay-per-view, but even they play a part in the brawl. A lot of the time, these brawls result in one superstar getting beaten down by their opponents, so this helps to further establish dominance and adds even more credibility to the heel going into the event. For example, at the go-home show for Hell in a Cell 2020, The Fiend was brutally attacked by Randy Orton and a steel chair. On that same note, it's also common for superstars to pull double duty on the go-home show. Meaning not only do they compete in a match, but they also get involved in the brawl at the end. For example, at the go-home show for Extreme Rules 2019, both Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch competed in matches before helping each other out during the brawl. Speaking of the go-home show for Extreme Rules 2019, this is easily one of the best examples of how a go-home show should be done.
Excellent.
Not only did the main event feature a dream match between two fan favorites, but the ending segment of the show was perfect. Not only were the heels established, but the faces also got their moment to stand tall. I'm not sure if the WWE Universe has fully appreciated what they saw that night, but the reaction to the main event was electric. The only thing missing was a hardcore match. So all in all, it was a great go-home show. And when you think about it, the go-home show for Extreme Rules 2019 had everything that the WWE wanted it to have. They even went as far as to promote the next night's episode of NXT. There really isn't anything negative that can be said about this particular go-home show. Now, while the go-home show for Extreme Rules 2019 may have been perfect, that doesn't mean it went exactly according to plan. In fact, sometimes things go so off the rails that they have to be fixed on the fly. Take, for example, the go-home show for WrestleMania 27. During the main event, The Rock and John Cena had a confrontation. Suddenly, The Rock shoved Cena so hard that he fell off the stage. While this wasn't supposed to happen, it did. And there was nothing anyone could do about it. It's safe to say that by the time The Rock left the arena that night, he heard boos louder than he ever had before. On a side note, the go-home show for WrestleMania 27 is another good example of a great go-home show. CM Punk cut one of the greatest promos of his career during that episode of Raw, putting over the excitement that he had for the upcoming event. Now, sometimes the go-home show isn't used to promote the next night's pay, but instead it's used to promote the following episode of Raw. Or, for example, the go-home show for the February 2018 episode of Raw wasn't a pay-per-view, but instead it was used to promote the following episode of Raw. The main event of that night was Roman Reigns and John Cena teaming up to take on The Miz and Samoa Joe in a tag team match. With so much on the line, the intensity was through the roof, and the match delivered. After picking up the victory, Roman Reigns and John Cena stood tall and celebrated, which led to a massive brawl with the rest of the roster. When the dust settled, AJ Styles was standing tall with the rest of the Bullet Club. This was done to promote the following week's episode of Raw, which ended up being one of the most entertaining episodes in recent memory. Now, normally, the go-home show ends with a huge brawl, but there have been exceptions to this. For example, the go-home show for SummerSlam 2016 didn't have a brawl at all. Instead, the main event of the show was a contract signing for the main event of... This may sound boring, but it was actually really good. It started off with a little bit of trash talk, but when it seemed like it was going to come to an end, suddenly the lights went out. When they turned back on, the entire Wyatt family was standing around the ring and the crowd was going nuts. Bray Wyatt grabbed the contract and tore it in half, signifying that he had accepted the challenge. From there, we were promised a match between the two. All in all, it was a very solid go-home show, even though there was no brawl. Speaking of no brawls, the go-home show for SummerSlam 2018 didn't have a brawl either. Instead, The main event was a six-pack challenge to determine the no one contender for the WWE Championship. In my opinion, it is better that they didn't end the show with a brawl, because it gave Jeff Hardy the opportunity to stand tall as the winner of the match. Having him win the match and stand tall really helped to put him over. Finally, I want to discuss a couple of fun facts about the Go Home Show. First off, sometimes the Go Home Show takes place during the same week as the This happened a few times in the late 2000s and early 2010. WWE held multiple events in a single week. Back then, they would hold a house show on the Wednesday, then SmackDown on the Thursday, and finally, the pay-per-view on Sunday. Second, it's not unusual for the Go Home Show to be extended in length. This happens due to a number of factors. Sometimes there's extra matches that need to be added. Other times there's something important that needs to be addressed, such as a title change or a number one contenders match. But perhaps the most common reason for an extension is to accommodate for a special segment. In the past, special segments on the Go Home Show have included in-ring returns, contract signings, and even Hall of Fame inductions. So now you know pretty much everything about the Go Home Show. And just to recap, the Go Home Show is the final episode of WWE's flagship shows, Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, before the four major pay-per-views, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series. Its purpose is to provide one last bit of hype for the matches that will take place at the Well, that's it for this episode of Did You Know? Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And remember, never miss an episode.
Okay guys, thank you for watching my videos.